Hey folks, in this video, let's talk about iPhone tariffs and bringing manufacturing back to the US. Apple iPhone, I think, is an iconic American product. It is the most popular smartphone in the United States. Even in other parts of the world, iPhone may not be the best selling smartphone, but it is for sure perceived as a status symbol, a high end luxury device. And iPhone has been in the news quite a bit recently as US hits other countries with tariffs, especially China, the country that assembles almost 90% of all Apple's iPhones. American consumers are wondering, is their beloved iPhone about to get expensive? Now, to understand implications of tariffs on cost of an iPhone, let's understand its cost breakdown. We'll use iPhone 16 Pro, the 256 gig version, for our analysis. Here you can see the different components that make up an iPhone. Now, all these components are made in different countries. The final product, however, is assembled in China. Now, look at the cost of individual components that make up an iPhone. We'll start with the fact that the total material cost for our iPhone 16 Pro comes out to be somewhere around $550. But digging deeper into the individual component cost, one thing that stands out is that three countries, Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea, are the ones that make up those components that are high value add. For example, Japan makes rear camera array and storage. Just these two components make up over quarter of the material cost of an iPhone. Same thing with South Korea and Taiwan. What does that tell us? That these three countries are good at high value add manufacturing, specialized manufacturing. China also makes some components. China makes batteries, main enclosure, but those are not high value add components. Keep this point in mind, we'll come to it later. Now, add some $30 for assembling and testing of an iPhone, and we arrive at roughly $600. This is what it costs Apple one iPhone 16 Pro. And Apple retails this product or sells this product in the US for roughly $1,100. The same product retails in India for around $1,500. In the United States, though, retail price of $1,100 mean Apple makes 50% margin based on just the material cost. You can add Apple's advertising expenses, expenses associated with included services like iMessage, iCloud. Even then, Apple gets to make some sweet margin on this iPhone. At present, there exists a well oiled manufacturing setup that helps Apple pump out over 200 million iPhones a year, over 20 crore iPhones a year at the optimum cost. Combine such high volume sales with fat margins, you get world beating profit numbers. There is a reason why market cap of Apple runs in some trillions of dollars, around $3 trillion dollars as of mid-April 2025. Look at some of the numbers that Apple has achieved in 2024. Revenue of over $390 billion. Dollars. This is more than GDPs of some countries like Finland and New Zealand. Net profit of over $90 billion. Dollars. Gross margin 46%. Free cash flow over $100 billion. Dollars. Just cash on hand more than $29 billion. Dollars. Just mind boggling numbers. Tariffs have thrown a wrench in Apple's profit making machine. Since most of the iPhones currently sold in the US come from China and China has been hit with significant tariffs, things are not looking good for Apple. Because when the US President Donald Trump announced reciprocal tariffs on all countries, China got hit with 54% tariff rate. At this tariff rate, the material cost for an iPhone goes up from $550 to almost $850. So, at this tariff level, Apple can do one of two things. First, they can keep selling their iPhone at $1,100, which will significantly cut into their profit margin because before it was costing them $550. Now it costs them $850. So selling at 1100 means significantly lower profits. Or they can raise their retail prices up to $1,700 to keep making the same 50% margin. You would probably guess what a big corporation would do. As if 54% tariff wasn't enough, US and China went back and forth. In the end, US slapped China with 125% tariff. And at that rate, iPhone would cost almost $2,500. Would you buy a $2,500 iPhone? Anyways, as countries were getting hit with tariffs left and right, US markets started to tumble. And I think in the end, saner voices prevailed. On April 9th, Trump announced a 90-day pause on all reciprocal tariffs except for China. But later on, even for China, electronics, smartphones were exempted from the tariffs. So that solves the iPhone problem for now. Apple gets to keep making hefty profits. US consumers get to keep buying iPhones at the same, still ridiculously high prices. Before we end the video, let's come back to the component cost breakdown of an iPhone. Now, if I were to bring manufacturing back to the US, I would focus on the parts that these three countries are making. Have these countries build manufacturing plants that will make parts like rear camera array, storage, processors in the US. If Trump team's claim is to be believed that countries are desperate for a trade deal that will exempt them from tariffs, surely some of these countries can help the US set up high value add manufacturing capabilities in the United States. Of course, this is just at one product level, but this strategy can be applied on a broader scale beyond electronic goods. And I think this would serve America much better, American workers much better than bringing assembly operation to the United States. I hope you found this analysis interesting. I'll speak with you again next week. Until then, take care.